Welcome to the Advice Show, media with a common sense approach. So today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we celebrate the legacy of our brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who fought very hard for our privileges that we have today, a lot of freedoms that we never had before in this nation. If this brother didn't spearhead a lot of the movement, if he didn't put his life on the line and eventually lost his life due to what he believed in, we wouldn't have anything that we have today, especially as black people. But there's some troubling things that I feel that's very, very heartbreaking. And to say that brother lost his life, if that brother could come back today, would he be pleased at some of the things that black people are doing? Black people have gotten to a point that they have spiraled downward. They are going into an abyss and they don't see their way out. Prior to Dr. King dying, we didn't have the single parenting epidemic. We didn't have all the whoredom that's going on. We didn't have all the violence. And if you like, what are you talking about, Mr. Advice Show? Let me show you a few clips on what Martin didn't fight for.
Hey, look, fuck all that shit there. Y'all can talk to me. Box.
Come on, honey.
Goddamn, come on there,
That's look what.
Pretty boy, beat. Twerk.
The shit, bitch ass. I didn't put your name. Don't put my name in this shit. You texting me like you tough. You touch you, nigga. You ready to put my name? I ain't talking. Nigga, what's up? I'm right here. And I'm right here, nigga. Came all the way from my side of town, nigga. Right here. Man, what's up, man? What's up? You text me, nigga. What's up? And I'm still standing up, nigga. Come on, man. Hey, fuck, man. Come on, man. What's up? Y'all want to box, man? What's up? He's standing. I'm right here. And you said you was gonna kill me. Come on, nigga. Come on.
Martin did not fight for you to have freedom to do that crap that you just saw on those clips. He didn't fight for you as black women to have freedom to just shake your behind like some 2-bit stripper hoes, doing it for free on top of that, just for Facebook likes or Twitter followers or Instagram followers. And you wonder why a lot of guys do not respect you. The women back in that time period that fought the movement, these were respectful women. They didn't dress like whores on the street. And yet, this is what's going on today. And because a lot of people follow you, black women, that's why they follow suit in your degradation as well. Why you think all these other females are twerking outside of you? You were doing it first. They wasn't even doing it. But since you make it look cool, they want to copy you. Translation, that makes you some sort of leader, whether you like it or not, to society trends. And instead of you making leadership moves towards something positive, this is what you do. Martin did not fight for you to shake your behind all over YouTube or everywhere else you want to shake your behind. The other piece that I show with these females acting like some straight up hood rats, Martin did not fight for you to be acting like that, to be having baby after baby after baby with no husband. In the black community, as I stated on the radio show tonight, I'm sick and tired of black people celebrating babies coming into the community and the woman don't even know who the father is. I stated on the show, don't you dare invite me to your baby shower if you know your father or your child is. I'm not celebrating that. We need to stop doing that. Martin did not fight for you to be having baby after baby and being on the welfare and the food stamps and you happy once a year so you can be your income tax queens. That's not right. Martin and them fought for you to have an education. And yet when somebody tell you about an education, they speak English the correct way, they're being white. Now, there are black people that lost their life for learning how to read. And yet you have all the opportunity in the world to read, yet you do not want to read. You are going way back than what Martin fought for. And this is what you want to do with his legacy. You want to shame yourselves. You want to degrade yourselves. It's not the racist white man doing it to you. You're doing it yourself because you have freedom now. And it doesn't make a bit of sense. Martin did not lose his life for this crap. That other piece, you saw these dudes in the street acting like some thugs. Martin did not fight for your freedom, for you to be doing that, to be fighting other black men in the doggone street, to be robbing black men and black people, to have our black elderly people afraid to step outside for any reason because they're afraid they're going to catch a bullet. And a lot of our elderly people were with Martin Luther King trying to fight for your freedom, and yet what happens? Now they in their homes in fear. You running up and down the street, shooting people, terrorizing your own neighborhood. You don't go terrorize the Klan. You don't go terrorize the neo-Nazis. People will celebrate that in the black community if you terrorize them. No, you terrorize your own. You kill your own. This is what you do all the time. Did Martin die for you to have the freedom to do that crap? Hell no. Let's go over some pictures. Martin Luther King, as you can see on this particular picture, is standing arm in arm with people to fight against injustice that happened to not only our community, but other communities as well. This man had unified people, not just black people, but people in general, because they were white people that did not like that crap that was going on in this nation. Why do you think President Kennedy was killed? Because he couldn't stand the stuff. Watch the movie The Butler, how he was responding to this stuff, how he couldn't believe this was America that he was the president of. I mean, this stuff in this nation, this racism was real, and Martin Luther King took his time out of his day. This man had a wife, this man had children. So I can understand where that brother coming from, having a family. And yet he puts his whole family on the line. He had the racist J. Edgar Hoover on him 24/7, tapping his phone, following him, lying on him, trying to get him broke up with his wife and everything, just so he could shut his mouth and stop speaking against the injustice. And as I put in that video, J. Edgar Hoover and the rest of them was an accomplice in getting our brother Martin Luther King assassinated. Because this brother was not only changing society, he was bringing all people together. There's a lot of black people that suffered. I want you to look at this. When our brother Martin was shot, do you think that brother laid there on that ground and them other brothers in this picture pointing about where the shooter's coming from? Do you think he's, you know what? He already knew he was going to die. He knew. As he's trying to breathe his last. Do you think that he said, you know what? I'm dying for them to kill each other. I'm dying on this ground right now like I'm some sort of criminal. For our women to degrade themselves, shaking their behind, twerking all day long, making videos, acting a fool, acting like some hood rats. Martin Luther King didn't die for hood rats and thugs. He died for black people to be progressive and to continue the work that he fought for. If you look at this next picture, you have Coretta Scott King and her children, now a widow, a single mother. And she looked at her husband laying in that coffin, fighting for everybody. He didn't have to do nothing but preach his sermons at his church and go home to his family. He would have been fine. He probably would have died an old man. But yet he took time out of his day to fight for our freedoms. If you look at the next picture, you have our sister as well with her children when she had her husband there. And this man fought for us. And yet what do? We disrespect him by putting his picture on club promotions, photoshopping his picture, which is extremely disrespectful. We don't care about the civil rights movement. We don't care about nothing anybody has ever done for us. If you look at the picture I'm going to put up, you got brothers and sisters being hosed down with fire hoses, fighting for your freedom, just because they chose to stand up against all this stuff. Look at this next picture of this brother getting attacked by a dog for your freedom. And what do you do with your freedom? You decide to be running all over America acting a plumb fool. Nobody's making you do anything. If somebody decides to get their own business, you call them an uppity black person or uppity Negro. If a black person decides that, you know what, I'm not going to accept this horrible status quo, I want to continue on with the rights and privileges that Martin fought for, and to build upon that, something is wrong with them. A black person is making some sort of headway in business or some way, form, or fashion, you attack them. What kind of money are you making? Why are you making money? But you never question white men at all about their money, But you're so quick to question a black person what kind of money they are making. You're so programmed to destroy other black people. Martin didn't fight for your freedom for that. If that was the case, if that's what you was going to do with your freedom, then Martin should just, you know what, hey, I'm good. I ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm going to preach and raise my kids. That's all I'm going to do. But yet this brother wanted to change the tide in this nation. You ought to feel shame in yourself, those of you who participate in this behavior and those of you who defend the behavior. Because if you're defending that behavior, you're just as guilty as those who are doing it. And stop blaming the white man for everything. Because the white man ain't making them females twerk. The white man ain't making them females be hood rats. The white man ain't making, I said making like a slave, making you be a thug. You choosing to do this. Well, they ain't got no jobs. Well, you keep fighting until you get one. We've been fighting ever since we got to the shores of America. Why do you think we ain't gonna keep fighting today? It's no excuse that we have to fight more. Yeah, we gotta fight more. Yes, black people gotta be more educated. Yes, black people gotta express themselves different. Yes, black people to a point have to be non-threatening sometimes. Yes, I know all that. But does that give me an excuse not to do something for myself? Does it give an excuse for me to make 30 kids with all these different females with no father in their life? Does it give an excuse for me to be a perpetual player, which is just an empty man who's a liar, who's a cheat, and he's no good for nobody? Martin didn't fight for us to have all that. Stop taking his death and using it to just do horrible stuff. Because this man spilled his blood for you and for me too. Look at the situation with the bus. Rosa Parks was tired. She went sit on the front of the bus. It was against the law for black people to be on the front of the bus. If a white person come on that bus, you better get your behind to the back. Rosa Parks said, I ain't moving. Rosa Parks got arrested, sparked a movement with the bus boycott. What you black people, some black people do today, you run to the back of the bus. That's where you want to be. Now, when white folks told you to be back there, black people didn't want to do it. They was disrespectful, which is the truth. Now you got freedom. You can sit wherever you want. There where you going to go, the back of the bus. You feel bad if you sit in front of the bus. I mean, this is sad. The black people who are doing something every day with themselves, they're working hard, they're educating themselves, they're raising their families, they're being good people. I applaud you 100%. I really applaud you. You're doing everything right. And you continue to do that in spite of some of our black people who are choosing to just make us look bad as a whole. It just makes us look bad. And the thing is, I can care less what you about to say about, oh, well, white folks. It's not about making us look bad before white folks. It's making us look bad before our people, not white folks. Y'all need to get that out your head and focus on being a great community, and it's in you to do this. Yes, there are outside influences that causes a lot of problems, but at the end of the day, it's still our choice to take the bait. It's our choice to treat each other wrong. It's our choice to impregnate women, and women, you have way more options to stop pregnancy, but yet you choose not to do it. We feel in the black community, contraceptives is abominable sin. We don't want to believe in that. Every time we have sex, it's going to be unprotected, and there's going to be a lot of ejaculation of sperm. And that's why we have a whole lot of kids and no fathers. And you don't want nobody to say nothing about that either. Martin didn't die for you to be doing what you're doing today. They wanted you to have an education. Yet you don't want that either. It's sad. It's so sad. So when we look at the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., every last black person who is successful, who's taking advantage of what this man died for, then he would be happy with you. But to those who are twerking all over the place, making baby after baby, you thugging it and loving it, killing black people, robbing black people, maiming black people, terrorizing our elderly, raping our women, all the stuff some black men are doing, he would be ashamed. He would cry. He would say, I can't believe I took a bullet for these people. I can't believe it. You think Martin wouldn't tell you nothing? You think Martin would be like, oh, well, I'm not going to say anything. Please. He would tell you a new one if he can come back and see what you're doing. Now, let's celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Day and be progressive. That's what we need to do. We talk about Dr. Martin Luther King all day, but we don't do half of the stuff he say to do. And one thing he believed in was family. He believed in community. He believed in getting things done. He didn't sit in the four walls of that church. He actually got in the community and done something. Half of y'all go to church, but none of y'all pastors got the four walls and do what this man did. That's something else you need to think about. I don't know what y'all think about it. Hit me up in the comments, future commentaries, subscribe.